All righty. All yours.
Who, me or Scott McDaniel? Which one? All right. Good morning, everyone. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Rogowski from Northern California SBDC, Small Business Development Center, Finance Center. And thank you for joining us this beautiful Friday morning, May 1st. We made it to May. We're really excited. And so I appreciate you jumping on. We are all in this together. All right, so Northern California SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, we're supported and funded by SBA, Small Business Administration. We have Noah Broad on the call today, so we're really excited to have him. He's in the forest. And so SBA funds us at no cost. SBA funds us, and the state of California, the governor's office of economic development called GoBiz, they fund us as well. And because of this awesome funding, we come at no cost to small business owners. We can do one-on-one advising at no cost. We can do workshops, webinars like these, educational seminars at no cost. And in Northern California SBDC, we cover the most northern 38 counties of the state. We go from the Oregon border down the coast to Santa Cruz. We cover all 9 counties of the Bay Area. We go southeast to Stockton, then back up through Nevada border and then Oregon border. I run the Finance Center for the Northern California SBDC region, and we specialize in helping businesses get access to capital. Before COVID, that was for startups and expansions, buying buildings and buying businesses. Now that we're in COVID, it's for anything disaster related loan that you would want to know, or how to navigate, or how to fill out your financials. So we could do all that for you at no cost. I also have my Associate Director, Sunita Maharaj, on the call. She's from the Finance Center as well. And then we also have Ann Johnson Stromberg from, she's the Associate Director of Programs for Northern California SBDC. She's gonna be working with Alan Montague, also from our team, to help run Q&A once we're done. So this is a disclaimer we like to say before we actually get into everything, that things are changing all the time. This information was correct when we put it together, but things are changing all the time. We ask that you be patient with us, that you be patient with SBA, and that you be patient with your lenders. But we are going to give you some information today and every day that we talk as to kind of how to possibly navigate this better and help help give you some relief with your patients. So we don't want you to hesitate to apply for either the EIDL or the Triple P when they come available again. The Triple P, you can apply today, and the monies are still there. It's not going as fast as the first tranche. The EIDL, the portal has not opened up yet. When it does open up, we don't want you to hesitate to apply, because the monies will go fast, and the faster you jump on it, the faster you will have an opportunity to get funded. If you are if you are structured in any way where you have a lot of investors or partners in your structure of ownership, please check with them first before you apply for these loans. They may or may not want you to take on this kind of debt. At SBDC, we do not have access to check on your status of your submitted SBA EIDL loan request, so we ask that you be patient. We will put some information at the end of this that will tell you the email and the phone number that you can call to essentially possibly find out how that's going. So those of you that know that the EIDL loan, the SBA web portal that you could apply for the loan, it went down about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks now. And if your loan was in the queue, meaning you applied and you haven't heard back yet, after March 29th, from March 29th to today, if you haven't heard back, you will get a case manager assigned to you eventually, hopefully in the next week or two, and they are going to contact you regarding your loan. So you're okay. You don't need to reapply. If you applied for the Triple P and you're waiting on your bank, you need to call them or walk down the street and go talk to them and find out if you have an SBA loan number assigned to your loan. If you do not, then you're probably too far in the queue and you're probably not going to be helped. And we have some other lenders that you can apply for to help you get quicker in the queue to get money. So the new funding overview, this came out Monday. There's a total of $380 billion that was allocated for the new funding, and it's broken up as such. So $350 billion is for the triple P. $260 billion of that went to all the lenders in the nation that offer 7A lending. It's open to all businesses, all lenders. $60 billion was specific for these types of lenders, $30 billion to community-based lenders, and $30 billion to mid-sized banks and credit unions. So those are monies that went to them and that they're able to lend it out, which is great. And SBA is, they're pacing this money in a way that some of the big banks aren't able to transact 150,000 or 100,000 transactions at once. They're kind of helping them pace that so that some of the smaller community banks and some of the nonprofit lenders can actually do some applications, and the big banks aren't going to be able to inundate that to a point where the small lenders can't, step in and help out. So there's some great things that SBA is doing on the second tranche to make it a lot easier to access the capital. Out of the $380 billion, $60 billion went to EIDL, $50 billion in some loan reserves in case some of these loans don't get paid back. And then $10 billion is for the advance, which is the forgivability part. That is, once the EIDL relaunches, there's a $10 billion in there for the advance. So the loan overviews, currently today, this is what exists. As we mentioned earlier, things change all the time, but there's a paycheck protection program, that's the triple P. There's the economic injury disaster loan, that's the EIDL and the EIDL advance. Currently, that is at EIDL right now. It was funny, it's EIDL, yeah. It's sitting still right now, where it's not, you can't apply, but it's going to come soon. And Noah is here from SBA. He doesn't probably have more information than I do on this, but he's a ray of sunshine. So the EIDL is coming soon, probably next week. It's not. We know it's not today. Today's Friday. It's not today, but it's coming soon. All right. So SBA loan support. If you get a brand new SBA 7A, which is like an expansion loan, a startup loan, or some other type of loan, or a 504 loan, which is like a large piece of equipment loan or a building loan, construction loan, SBA will automatically pay the principal and interest for the first 6 months, which is really, really awesome. Then SBA will also automatically pay the principal and interest and fees of any new 7A 504 microloans that are funded prior to September 27th. In the state of California, there's some sales tax deferment programs that you can take advantage of. We don't have that information for you, but you can talk to the state of California and get access to that. And then also iBank loans, those are through the Governor's Office of Economic Development called GoBiz. There's a thing called iBank, and that's the state guarantee side. So SBA is federal guarantee for triple P, and state guarantee is iBank. All right, so the forms that are needed, this slide keeps changing over and over and over and over again because there's more information. There's actually one other thing I forgot to put in here that we found out earlier this week. But for the triple P and calculations, there's a universal form. You can find it on the Treasury's website, or you can reach out to us and email so we can give it to you. It's very simple. For sole props, it's really all about your 2019 Schedule C, even if you haven't filed yet. So if you haven't filed yet, you don't need to file since the IRS extended it from April 15th to July 15th. But if you need help kind of putting together the numbers for that, we can help you at no cost. All other entities need to get together their 2019 W-2s, 941s, or 940s, your quarterly reports. These are this is the minimum amount of paperwork that you have to apply or get ready to submit with the triple P. For a sole prop, it's all your 1099s. For other entities, it's your W-2s and 940s, 941s. So a lot of questions about how to calculate the loan amount and how to calculate your forgivability if you're a sole proprietor. You take the line 31, that's your net profit or loss. You divide it by 12 times by 2.5, and that's what you qualify for as a loan amount. Just like any other entity would take their payroll, rent, utilities, and interest expenses and times it by 2.5. For forgivability, it's always at 8 weeks for regardless the entity that you are, but it's 8 weeks. For a sole prop, you take line 31, divided by 52, multiplied by 8. And that's your forgivability part. The part that I forgot to put in here is if you are an LLC or you have some form of K1s that you file, the line number on the K1s to figure out if you actually have income that you can times by 2.5 to figure out what your loan amount, your forgivability loan amount is you take box 14 on your K1s, and if there's money in there, great. Then you can figure out this equation. We can help you. If there's no money in there, then it's going to be a little bit more tricky. Just like if you have a line 31 Schedule C and you have a negative profit, it's going to be a little tricky. So a lot more extra paperwork, explanation, storytelling. If that confuses you or concerns you or frustrates you, please reach out to us. We can help you with all that at no cost. So the 8 weeks starts the day you get the money. The day you get the money funded into your bank account is when the 8 weeks start. Regardless if you are open, regardless if the stay-at-home is lifted or not, 8 weeks starts the day you get funded. So if your place of business is not open and the 8 weeks starts today, well, then technically you're supposed to call your employees that you laid off, get them off unemployment, rehire them, and if you're not open, you have to pay them to sit at home because that's the way the law was written. We get this question all the time, and the 8 weeks starts the day you get funded, and yes, you're supposed to pay your people to sit at home for 8 weeks or 2 weeks or 6 weeks or however long it takes for you to reopen and allow them to go back to work. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions on this. We're very excited to answer all these questions. But yes, that's just the way it is. What's forgivable? We also get this question over and over again. I was on a call for 2.5 hours yesterday with some high powerful attorneys in San Francisco answering questions on every scenario possible that you could think of for these two things, the 8 weeks and the forgivability. Hopefully Noah kind of can tell us when that's going to come out, the SOPs, but he probably doesn't, but he's smiling, so maybe, I don't know. But 75 to 100%, if you spend that on payroll costs, which is a bunch of stuff inside the payroll costs, it'll more than likely be forgiven, 100% forgiven. You can break it up and do 75% on payroll costs and then 25% on other stuff, which is rent, utilities, and interest debt payments. And that's it on the forgivability part until SBA comes out with standard operating procedures on what is forgivable, what is not forgivable, and all the intricacies within it. All right, so we're gonna help you find PPP lenders. If you're big bank or little bank or whatever bank or credit union or lender you bank with can't help you or they're at capacity, we are here for you to help you find these lenders, help you fill out your paperwork, help you fill out the application, help you with all that at no cost. You can also go to sba.gov/paycheck protection find, type in your zip code, and then you can find lenders locally to you. We work with some nonprofit lenders that are statewide. One is lendistry.com. They're lending up to $250,000 for any non-customer, meaning you don't have to have a loan with them. They're not a bank. Both of these lenders are not banks. You can still keep your money at your bank that you love so much. Just you can bank with them and get a loan with these lenders. Opportunity Fund, they're in San Francisco. They do statewide up to $150,000 for a non-customer. Really awesome. This is a new chart for those of you that watch all these webinars. So you got nothing better to do. This is a new chart from Noah hooked this one up. So these are non-federally regulated PPP lenders. I'm not sure what that really means, but Noah could probably tell you. But here's the awesome list here. I'm assuming that these are all, yeah, none of these are banks per se. These are all lenders, nonprofit lenders. Look at there, Opportunity Fund is on there again. But these are all lenders that either lend to you directly through PPP that are not banks, meaning they're non-federally regulated, they're not FDIC insured. But they either have their own monies or they're like platforms that are called aggregators where you apply and then they help you get in touch with a lender very, 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 very quickly. Because most of these lenders or companies on here are fintech, financial technology companies, and they move a whole of a lot faster, extremely fast, super fast than big banks. So really cool stuff. All right. So I know I'm talking probably a little bit longer than I normally do, but I'm almost done. So what the forms that may be needed for the EIDL, these are the forms. They may or may not be needed. If you haven't applied for EIDL before, we recommend that you meet with us at the SBDC and we can help you fill these out so you're ready so that when it comes available, you have all this put together. This may seem like a lot of stuff. We get some clients to say this is way too much for me to fill out. We agree, it's a lot of stuff, but guess what? It'll just help you plan better for the next loan you're trying to get. And it'll help you understand your numbers better as a business owner. Whoops, all right, last slide. So state of California, disaster loan options. So for some reason, for whatever reason, if you get declined or you are disqualified, meaning you're not eligible for a PPP or an EIDL loan, and you're probably going to ask me, well, what does that mean and how would I know? Here's 5 examples real quick as to why you would not qualify for an EIDL or a PPP, regardless if you applied and got declined or regardless if you just know that and you're not going to apply. Anything with credit issues, you wouldn't really find that out, the credit issues, unless you applied and they told you that. If you don't have a US ID, you don't qualify. If you're a 501c6 and don't have a lot of your money coming from lobbying, if you don't have any payroll, or you're delinquent on any federal loan, or you're delinquent on any federal loans and have liens on your credit. That could be either a student loan that you defaulted on and didn't pay back. It could be another SBA loan, federal loan. So if any of these pertain to you, whether you were declined for EIDL and PPP, or you don't qualify based on one of these 5 things, then you qualify to apply for a $50,000 microloan for a smaller business, or up to $1 million for a larger business. These loans are administered through financial development corporations. There's 2 in Northern California. There's 1 in Oakland. Excuse me. If you're Solano South for counties, you go to, you can contact Chris Horton right here. He's does some work. He's one of our financial advisors, but he also does some work for NorCal FDC, Financial Development Corporation, out of Oakland. If you're YOLO North counties, you could reach out to us and we can get you connected to the one in Sacramento called California Capital. We do a lot of work with them on collaboration and partnerships. They're a great organization, and we can get you connected with them to get one of these disaster loans up to either $50,000 or $1 million. All right, this is how you get a hold of us. Our marketing director, Aaron Phelps, did an excellent job putting together this website. It's very interactive. This video is being live streamed on that website as we speak, which is really awesome. You can call us and get a live person at 833-ASK-SBDC. You go to the website, there's a chat bot. You can talk to that chat bot. You can type in a Google form question, and we will get back to you same day or within 24 hours. You could also email us at loans@asksbdc.com. We have a great partner in Northern California region called California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Oscar Garcia and Julian Canetti. Their team is doing some amazing things in Spanish, Spanish speaking. You can get a hold of them at espanol@asksbdc.com. And then also, if you were trying to contact SBA directly, you could call them here at the disaster number, or you could also email them here at this disaster customer service at sba.gov. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the time. I'm going to stay on for Q&A, and here we go. Here you go, Ann.
Okay. Noah, before we get started, what can you tell us today?
No new updates between now and the last one. So not much additional information as of this morning. There were some small clarifications made with regards to PPP applications that may be in the queue. So we did release a little bit of clarification for lenders on how they should handle disbursements. That came out yesterday. So the expectation we had for lenders was that they make disbursements of PPP funds within 10 days. And we actually issued that as a formal rule yesterday, that we want lenders to be making PPP disbursements to applicants in 10 days. So if you'd been approved for a PPP loan prior to the 28th of April, what we did is because that was an expectation that was communicated, but it wasn't the actual rule. Now it's a rule. So the clock has started ticking for banks as of the 28th. Even if they'd approved a PPP before the 28th, it started on the 28th. And we also, in that rule, made clear that if a loan wasn't dispersed within 20 days, that it needed to be canceled by the lender. So that was a kind of a formal rule that we released. But some of the bigger questions, when is the EIDL loan application, like when is that portal going to reopen? When are the detailed rules about forgiveness and headcount requirements going to be released? Those are still items that we don't have formal answers to yet at this time. For the forgiveness portion, I mean, I'd say, there's kind of two items. There's a lot of people that have advice right now. Some of it's prudent, some of it's really strict. And it can be sometimes a little bit of a relief, to know that actually nobody knows, to take a step back. Any advice they're giving, actually, there isn't a formal set of rules to go by for the forgiveness portion. For business owners that have already received their PPP funds, the best advice that I have on navigating forgiveness is to work closely with your lender, document really well how you're using PPP funds, tell your lender how you plan on using PPP funds, and focus on core payroll costs, expenses when you're using those funds.
Great. Thank you, Noah. Heather, anything to add to that? Heather Lutzi, our district director for the Sacramento SBA office, is on the call, but I think that she might be muted. Heather, just pipe in when you are able to, and I will jump into questions. Please.
Before you do, Anne, can I quickly remind people to put their questions into the Q&A rather than the chat, and please make it as clear when you write the question, whether it's about the PPP or the EIDL or the state guarantee loans or anything like that. Before you ask one, just check what's in there and see if there's somebody else who has a question like that, where you can get your answer, and just upvote that, because we've got just under 100 questions in the list already, and the ones that are going to get answered first are going to be the ones that people think are important to everybody. So that's the way we work it.
Okay. Heather, are you on yet?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I disconnected when I went to talk and unmute, so my apologies. No, I think Noah had covered kind of the updates very well. Really nothing more to add to that at this point. We're hopeful that we will get the updated numbers for the economic injury disaster loans, and those should come out today. We'll be able to share those, but that's about all I have.
All right. Anil is asking, I got PPP loan first and EIDL advance of 10,000 next. I heard that in this case, the 10,000 will be reduced from the PPP loan forgiveness amount.
Yes.
And that the 10,000 would be converted into a PPP loan at the 1% interest to pay back in 2 years. Is that the case?
I don't think
That's
so.
not what I had heard.
Noah.
Yeah, so the way to think about this is that there won't be a conversion, but if you receive $10,000 as a grant under the EIDL, and you got a $100,000 PPP loan, that is that maybe you qualify for 100, full forgiveness on that. Then what will happen is that the amount of forgiveness that is allowable under the PPP loan will be reduced by $10,000. So at the end of the day, you'll get your $10,000 grant that you don't have to pay back, or advance that you don't have to pay back from the EIDL, and you'll get $90,000 of forgiveness for the PPP, and that remaining $10,000 will, so that the PPP is a loan with loan terms, it will just convert into a loan. And the PPP loan terms are 1% annual interest rate that has a 2-year loan term, and there's no prepayment penalties. So if at the end of it, you ended up with that $10,000 left over in the PPP and you didn't even want to pay any of that back, you could just return it with no penalty.
Okay. Anil, I'm going to recommend that because you have such a long question here, that you reach out to the asksbdc.com website for and put a phone call into us so that we can help you one-on-one. I think that's going to be a better fit. Sidel is saying that as a sole proprietor without regular salary draws under PPP, am I considered forgivable in paying myself a salary?
So if you're, I don't know, Noah, or Sunita, do you know how to answer the question for, do they say they do give draws or they don't give draws?
If you can show on line 31 of your previous tax return or 2019 Schedule C, even though if you have not filed it, and it shows a net amount, positive amount, divide that by 12, and then that's what you could be paid on a monthly basis. The calculation is on the sheet, a few sheets previous to this. I would take a look at that, and that's the amount that you can pay yourself. It should be similar to what you paid yourself last year. So I don't believe that it's allowable for the forgiveness portion of it to pay yourself a salary starting now at maybe, more. So your forgiveness piece is take line 31, divide by 52, and multiply by 8.
Okay. The other question that Anil is asking that maybe we can answer is regarding number of FTEs versus amount of payroll. Is there clarification on whether or not people have to maintain the same number of FTEs, or if it's just the same amount of payroll that they were paying prior to the end of the year? Can you just clarify that?
That really falls into that category of, we're still waiting for the detailed guidance from the Treasury about how they will be looking at those forgiveness steps. So I don't have a complete answer on that. I do know that it was clarified that for forgiveness, they'll be looking at FTEs, not head counts necessarily, just FTEs. And but outside of that, I know that, yeah, I guess that's and that proportion, and that forgiveness will be that there will be a mechanism for proportional forgiveness as well if you don't meet the thresholds, like the 75% thresholds. But I don't know how that's going to be calculated yet.
Okay, that's the best that we can offer in terms of guidance on that at this time, guys. But we'll continue to keep you posted, and when we hear something more, we'll share. As far as the June 30th, We've talked about this on every webinar. Sunita, could you just reiterate the June 30th rule?
I believe the June 30th rule came into play regards to the PPP and the funding date, or the monies should be used up by then. But unfortunately, that, you know, the timing wise, that's just not going to be, that's not just going to happen. So if you were funded today, your 8 weeks start, if the funds were dispersed into your bank account today, then the 8-week clock starts today. So the June date is no longer valid, I believe. But it is on all the paperwork because I believe that's the way it was written. So I don't think that they can take it off. But the June date can just be disregarded. Your date starts the date that money is deposited into your bank account.
Great. Scott, this question was for you. John is saying, my lender said I have to bring back all my employees at their regular hours, but only if they're full-time employees. All my employees are part-time, is what he's saying. Have you heard that as a rule, like only if they're full-time employees?
No, I'm not sure if Noah knows how to answer that. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's new to me. I would tell that person for two things. One is check their promissory note and see if that is actually in the language of their promissory note. And two, you know, even if that were in the language of the promissory note, you know, that's unlikely. I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate about the future, but the real answer is that forgiveness, you know, guidance hasn't been released by Treasury or SBA in a detailed way. And if your lender is telling you something really specific, and it ends up conflicting with the guidance that's issued by Treasury and SBA, what will hold is the guidance that is issued by Treasury and SBA. So nothing, even if it's in the promissory note, if it conflicts with something that's issued by Treasury and SBA on these programs, what will hold is what our rules and regulations say, and we haven't released those yet. So the lender is yeah, they might be going out on a limb in terms of saying something really specific that you know, when actually we're in a moment where there's not that specificity available.
Okay. Wendy's saying, I personally loaned the company money to cover monthly expenses and I have reimbursement costs. Can I use the EIDL to repay myself for the loan for operating costs?
So you can't necessarily use the EIDL to pay off that debt or that loan completely. If you set it up as some sort of interest debt payments on a monthly basis, you can put that into your operating costs on a monthly basis and pay that payment, but you can't pay it all off. Also, the EIDL loan and the PPP loan are for expenses going forward, not backwards. It's not to pay expenses that you already incurred. It's going forward from the time that you get the money to the time that you use all the money. It's for going forward, not backwards.
Great. Anna is asking or saying, I do not know if I will receive PPP funding. I applied, but don't know if I'll get it. Can I apply for unemployment? If I do, and then receive PPP, what do I do about unemployment benefits?
So if you don't know if you're approved or not, you need to call the lender or lenders that you applied with and find out if you're approved. They probably won't call you. It depends on how many people you are in the waiting list or the queue. If you're in the hundreds of thousands, then yeah, they're probably not gonna get to you. If you're in the under 1,000, then yeah, you have a better chance of them calling you. As far as PPP and unemployment, you could apply for everything if you want. PPP, unemployment, EIDL, apply for it all. But if you get unemployment and you're using unemployment and then you get PPP money, you're supposed to cancel unemployment and use the PPP money. So the unemployment could be used as a bridge type loan per se, or income vehicle before you get the triple P.
So you can pause your unemployment. When you're filling out the paperwork, it asks if you've received any money or made money that week, and you would say yes. So then that week you would not get paid for unemployment. So you can continue doing that if you have PPP money. So that way you don't have to cancel it altogether, unless there is a different way that they're doing unemployment for our sole props. But I don't believe that part is different.
Okay. Can you reiterate what's been said about bonuses and commissions in terms of trying to increase payroll for that 8 weeks to make up the 75%?
Yeah, so if so the triple P, if you were in business in 2019, the triple P structure of your payroll is going to come from your 2019 either W-2s or 940, 941s. So if it is a common practice for you as a business owner and your business model with your employees to pay bonuses or commissions, if that is a pattern that you had in 2019, they're going to take an average monthly commission or bonus payment structure, and they're going to use that calculation going forward for your 8 weeks. So if you normally bonus $20,000 a month or pay commissions of $10,000 a month, but in the first 8 weeks of you getting the money, you do commissions of $40,000 a month, then there could be a chance that the difference between 40 and what you normally do will not be 100% forgivable. So if it's a normal practice for you to pay bonuses and commissions, and it's within the monthly average of what you normally do, then yes, it could be potentially 100% forgiven in the 8 weeks. But if it's outside of your normal pattern, then no, you're gonna have trouble getting it 100% forgiven.
What about payroll taxes, guys? Can employer payroll taxes that are paid be used as part of that forgivable PPP?
So no federal taxes can be paid or forgiven, but any state taxes can be forgiven in that.
Payroll taxes.
Yeah, state payroll taxes. That's what I meant. So,
State payroll taxes.
right? Is that right, Shanina? There's federal payroll taxes and state payroll taxes, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Can you show the slide again for sole proprietors with no employees, how they calculate monthly payroll when they apply for the PPP loan advance?
Yeah, so it has everything to do with line 31. If that is negative, then you're going to have a really hard time qualifying for the triple P money. If that's the case, please email us. We will help you walk through that and explain it and maybe possibly show a different picture based on some add backs or something like that. If you're positive, then you just take it divided by 12. You take line 31 divided by 12 times by 2.5. That's what you qualify for your loan amount. And then if you want to know what's forgivable, you take line 31 divided by 52 weeks times by 8, and that's your forgivability part.
I'll put that in the chat.
Thanks.
Okay, great. And then, so the owner of Rocky's Personal Fitness is saying, I have received my advance for EIDL. I've signed loan docs for PPP. I was told almost 2 weeks ago that I was 1 to 3 days away from funding, but nothing yet. My bank is not giving me an update on the PPP. I am not willing to use the advance until I know what the forgiveness is all about, because I will not be able to afford to repay if not forgiven. Any thoughts on this comment?
So the advance, whatever it is, 1,000 or 10,000, is 100% forgivable, and you can spend it on whatever you need to spend it on to run and operate your business. 100% forgivable. The only thing about the triple P and the advance is just what Noah was talking about earlier. If you qualify for 50 grand on the triple P, and you get the advance, they're just going to minus your advance from that triple P amount and then give you that amount instead. The triple P forgivability hasn't, the SOP, standard operating procedures, has not come out yet from the Treasury and SBA, so we don't know fully how to get your triple P fully 100% forgiven, but the EIDL advance is 100% forgiven. If you're having trouble with your lender and not receiving a response, please email us and we will help you. We will get you to either another lender. We don't have connections at every lender, so we're not necessarily gonna be able to call your lender and say, hey, what is going on? Let me help this client. But what we can do is help you find another lender that will talk to you faster and help process your paperwork quicker.
Okay, another question was regarding the bonus protocol. If one employee of their team had been receiving bonuses, can we give all the staff bonuses to ensure they can use the funds?
What? Say that again, sorry.
If one employee had been regularly getting bonuses at the end of the year, can they give all their staff bonuses to spend down PPP?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, no is going to say, well, we don't know yet because we haven't put out the standard operating procedures. But what we do know now is if one person received commissions and that or bonus, and that bonus is $10,000 a month, and you want to break it up and give it to all your other employees, it cannot exceed $10,000 a month for it to be potentially 100% forgivable. There's probably 1,000 different ways you can ask this one question that Ann is going to go through. There's also 1,000 different ways that you can ask another question called, well, what happens if I have 8 full-time employees before I start, and then I hire 16 part-time employees instead of 8 full-time employees? Well, that question we don't know either. There's all these different questions. Most of we don't know. We have to wait until the future comes. Just trying to help you out, Ann. Trying to help you out because these
Thanks,
people
Scott. Thank you for that.
ask all these questions like 10 different ways.
He's a little punch drunk now, I can tell. Okay. For those of you who are reporting in that you have applied for EIDL and not heard back, as Scott addressed earlier in his presentation, we don't have any better information for you on that piece. If you haven't received a decline letter from SBA, you are probably still in the running. If you had applied for the EIDL loan after March 29th. If you had applied for the EIDL loan prior to March 29th, you will be required to reapply for that. If you, is there anything I forgot about all of those details?
No, so if you applied before March 29th with EIDL and you have not heard back, then you're going to have to reapply when the EIDL relaunches. But if you applied before March 29th and you think you haven't heard back, but you didn't check your spam and all your other emails, then you need to do that first because some of these emails go to spam. If you applied after March 29th or March 29th and after, you're good to go. SBA is going to get back to you. They are going to assign a case manager to you, and they are going to tell you if you're approved or not approved and where your advance is. Actually, the advance just pops up into your account one day magically, because when you apply, you give your routing number and account number, and then they don't call you and tell you and text you and email you or whatever. You just wake up and it says SBAD for disaster, and that money's in there. It's amazing.
Okay. I am hearing from Jennifer, she's saying she's looking forward to hearing about more grants for self-employed solo practitioners and S-corps with one employee themselves. All grants that she's heard of so far require a minimum of 2 employees from the cities, Oakland, Richmond, Berkeley, and San Francisco. Any other grants that can be discussed at this point, Sunita or Scott?
We have the grant information online, asksbdc.com. It is in the latest news. So anything that we know of that is up and running is there. Anything that we do get more information on, we will also put there. So that's a great resource because there are so many that will be coming up, especially cities have their own grants at their own places. So we may not be able to get all of the little city ones, but usually if it's in California or Northern California, we should be able to get up onto our website. But they do change and the money does run out. So it is a little bit more difficult to keep track of that, of all the grants that are accessible to small businesses. At this point in time, I don't know of any that are just for a sole prop, one employee.
And I'll pop the link to that in the chat as well for everybody.
Great.
There are loans or 0% loans. They're not grants, but there's 0% loans called Kiva, K-I-V-A. We have an affiliate partner in Northern California called Central Community Organization, and they are a Kiva hub, and they're offering loans or access to loans for Kiva up to $15,000. If you want more information on that, you can email us. That'd be the best bet.
Okay. Natalia is asking a question about forgivability for PPP. S-Corp owner used to get a salary and draws. Are the draws forgivable?
If it's all documented appropriately, historically, and correctly, which I know doesn't tell you anything because we don't know really what that looks like as far as forgivability, and we won't know until maybe hopefully the next week or two, once we get it from the Treasury and SBA. But if it's documented appropriately, correctly with your bookkeeper, your CPA, your tax accountant, whomever, and you can show that and on paper in a very clear, concise way, then we are being told that it's potentially forgivable.
And it has to be, you have to reflect what you did in 2019. So if in 2019 there were no draws, there was no payroll for the owner, then most likely that portion will not be forgivable because it's not what happened in the past. It's, you have no history of it. But we don't know. Things, it may come out and if they may say the forgivability is, we'll have a list of all of that then, but we're just thinking now, best practice, that's kind of how they're going to look at it.
Okay. Monica is saying, I applied for the PPP. The bank informed me a week ago the information I provided to the bank was verified and they would be sending the request to SBA. I should get a E-Trans number from SBA. There is nothing the bank can do for us at this point. I haven't received an SBA number.
So you're going to have to give a little bit of pushback to these lenders because they like to lie a lot and just putting it out there. You need to give
a lot of friends with our lenders right now.
You need to give pushback. I highly doubt they're on the call. You need to give pushback to your lenders that you applied for or with, or that you're friends with, or that you've been banking with for 10, 15, 20 years. And you need to ask them, hey, do I have an SBA loan number assigned to me? And they say, well, I don't know, or SBA hasn't gotten back to me. Well, then either they're lying to you or they really don't know what they're doing, and you need to email us and we'll help you get to a lender that does know what they're doing.
Hey, and Scott, if I could just interject too, it's Heather. With respect to the borrower getting an E-Tran number, that's not going to happen. So the way that the process works is that the lending institution will electronically request the funding or guarantee number through SBA, either through our lender gateway or through E-Tran. That number really is irrelevant from the borrower's perspective, and that's nothing that SBA is going to give to the lender. You'll see it on the note when the closing documents come, but otherwise don't expect any type of communication from SBA. You would get the communication directly from your lending institution.
Yes, thanks, Heather. So what Heather's saying also is that the only reason I put that on the slide is just to kind of give you a little bit of information as a business owner, as a borrower. They're technically not going to, she's right, they're not going to give you that loan number, and SBA is not going to give you that loan number. It's communication between the lender and SBA. The lender would ask for approval, SBA would say yay or nay, and then they would give them, if they said yes, they would give them this internal E-Tran SBA loan number assigned to you. They would take the amount that you qualify for or applied for out of the national loan amount and kind of hold it there until you are funded. So we're just telling you to give a little bit more pushback to see if they actually have that number assigned to you and your loan application.
Okay. Edna is saying that they use a payroll company. Do the payroll taxes taken out of our account by the payroll company count as part of the 75%? Or is it only the actual paychecks themselves that are 75%?
Just the taxes are part of the 75%, but only state employee taxes, not federal employee taxes.
And the fee that the business pays the payroll company, that's not forgivable.
Correct.
Okay. Say is asking, how can we check the status of our EIDL loan? We don't have the ability to do that. We do recommend that if you want to reach out to the SBA 800 number, we have it on your screen right now. You're welcome to try contacting them. It's much better if you try during an off-peak time to contact them. Particularly the weekends are better for that. And if you haven't received a decline letter, please be sure to check your spam email box and your junk email box just in case you had gotten something there. But you're still in the queue if you applied after the 29th of March. Kevin is saying that when he applied for the loan, I do not recall there being a location to request an amount. How will we be notified of the approval of the loan, not PPP?
So
how do we know the amount desired? If it will be 500,000, $1 million, or 2 million? So
it's not being super disclosed to us like it was at the beginning. A lot of things have changed, but you don't, when you apply for the EIDL, you don't apply for an amount. You give them your annual sales minus your annual cost of goods. And that number, if just really quick, minus those two numbers together, you get operating expenses for the year. If you were to take your operating expenses and divide it by 2, that'd be 6 months worth of working capital, the capital that it takes to run and operate your business. We're not sure if it's going to be 2 months of working capital or 6 months of working capital that you would qualify for, but it's somewhere in between that. So that's what you would essentially qualify for. If you take your operating expenses for all 2019 divided by 2, that's the max that you probably qualify for. If you take that number, operating expenses for 2019 divided by 6, that would tell you like roughly what the minimum that you may or may not qualify for.
Okay, we're going to try to do some rapid fire questions so we can get as many of these knocked out today as possible. We've only got 5 minutes left. Leslie is saying, I've received and signed closing documents for the EIDL. When can I expect my funds?
All right, Noah.
Noah, is SBA giving themselves a 10-day deadline?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, the timelines and as for the EIDLs, we don't have published or released timelines on what those are looking like right now. I wish we had them. We have got some inquiries in about trying to get some of those announced, but unfortunately, I don't have that right now.
Okay. David is saying, I've received $4,000 from the SBAD Treasury. Is that the PPP or the EIDL? It is definitely the EIDL. So that would be the advance that has come through your account. You won't get anything for the PPP that says SBA on it. It'll be directly from the lender. Michael is saying, what can the $10,000 EIDL be used for? I'm assuming he's saying the advance. It can be used for anything and it's 100% forgivable. The answer is yes. Let's see. We don't have any additional updates on the status of the EIDL portal. We are waiting just like everybody else. Oh, does the definition of utilities, Carolyn is asking, also include internet services?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Well, we have a lot of utilities questions also we haven't gotten clarification on. I think that's reasonable, but what's reasonable and what's guidance, what's clarified. Scott can lay out what are prudent and reasonable steps that business owners could take. We don't have the detailed, like here's the nitty-gritty on like how we're defining those categories.
I'm sorry, but with everybody working from home, if they do not include utilities,
I totally agree.
As internet, that is
totally
just
agree.
Ridiculousness beyond ridiculousness. So okay.
So what we're telling people is lights, telephone, and internet. I mean, that's what was originally launched when it first came out, when the lawyers dissected the law super fast and gave it to everybody.
Yep.
And we have that. Those are the only three things they mentioned. They don't mention water, sewer, and all that other stuff, and garbage can.
Yeah. So I totally, I'm not saying you're wrong at all.
No, I know. Like nobody knows, right? Because nothing's been printed.
Yes. I love the way all the timeline for these things work out. It gives us so much information so that we make the right decisions
every day
in advance, right? Right. Okay, so Sean is saying, I applied for the EIDL on 3/30 and have yet to see any money. If I do finally receive money from EIDL, are you saying I cannot use the funds to cover the costs incurred since 3/18 when the business was shut down?
True. EIDL is forward. EIDL is not backwards. PPP is forward. It's not backwards. So EIDL is meant to used for operating expenses for 2 to 6 months. That's what it's used for.
From the time they receive it, not from the time they applied for it.
Exactly. All the loans are from the time you receive it.
All right. All right, guys. That'll have to be our last question. We are at 11:30. We so appreciate all of you who continue to join us. We really want to be able to answer as many questions as possible for you. Please feel free to go to our asksbdc.com or send an email to loans@asksbdc.com or espanol@asksbdc.com if you need those answers in Spanish. Please keep in mind, these resources are available to you to answer the financial questions regarding EIDL and PPP and other funding specific questions. Other small business questions in regards to surviving COVID, etc., you can reach out to your local SBDC by going to norcalsbdc.com or .org and look for your local center near you by putting in your zip code. Thank you to our speaker or our panelists, Noah and Heather from SBA. And thank you, Scott, for your fantastic go get 'em attitude on our on our straight talk with the folks on the call today, and Sunita and Alan too. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for your time.